welcome along to the CFTS podcast. We're very privileged this morning. We have one of our dealers that's come in to talk about the Regulation 10s. So I'm going to welcome Carla from Compass Lift Trucks. Good morning to you.
Morning.
How you doing?
All good, thank you.
Smashing stuff. So, of course, as you may be aware, this podcast has been mainly aimed at Regulation 10 of LOLA, which is the reporting to the local authority / HSE. And, of course, as in our service industry, can be a very delicate situation. So basically, from top to bottom, how do your team react when they do find a serious defect?
So we have 8 engineers, and once they've been with us once they've proved their competency, we get everybody trained to do thorough exams. And from the point that they do their training, as you'll all know, the onus is on them to make the call in the field. We're very clear about that, and we back them up with that. So and we are only talking about a defect that presents immediate or imminent risk of serious personal injury. So it's only the immediate failures that actually have to be reported. And to be honest, they're quite few and far between. Most often the reports are of defects that have a timeline. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Hopefully, with most of our customers, we are looking at the trucks frequently enough to not have those. But there are occasions when we do find them. And then the engineer, whoever is conducting the thorough exam, will record it, report it, and tell the customer. And they all tell the customer, this is immediate, the truck's downed, it's unsafe to use, and we'll be reporting it. But what they also say, to caveat that, is we need to fix it. We've got 28 days to report it. So you don't have to, there's no immediate rush for that to come back in and for us to report it straight away to HSE or LA.
Yes.
And I think they use that fact. I think the engineers use that as a bit of a sweetener to say, we've got 28 days. It is downed immediately, so you can't use it.
Yeah.
But we have to report it within those 28 days. So the best thing for you is to get it fixed so that it's safe, or for you to tell us that you're scrapping it, not using it anymore, or whatever, and we'll tell them that. So The decision is yours. If you don't do it, we have to tell them anyway.
Yes.
And it's up to them what they do with that information. And that is a whole other
yes. Well, yeah, of course.
different ballgame. But our engineers don't have an issue with with telling a customer their truck's failed for whatever reason. And this is just another failure. It's an immediate failure which downs the truck. So it's different to, something else. However, if they still choose to use it, that we have no control over that. We have no influence or bearing. We can just tell them, and ultimately it's on their shoulders. So as long as we tick the boxes, filled it in, written on because we do everything in paper, in triplicate. So we don't have PDAs. We're still doing the thorough exam on the report, on the paper reports. But we also have job sheets, and the job sheets are also in triplicate. So it's written on the job sheet, customer advised of immediate failure, truck not to be used, big letters on it, and then the customer has to sign it.
Yeah.
So that's a bit of, we've told you and you've accepted we've told you.
Yes. Yeah. As we know, customers, 99% of customers are grand, no problems at all. But you do get the odd one that as your guy leaves site, for a fact that they'll start using that truck again, because that's just human nature. That's who they are. And I've come across that myself in the past. The beauty of it is, of course, you're doing your job and your competent guys are doing their job. But ultimately, it's the end user that's responsible anyway. We have a duty to report the Section 10 or Regulation 10. But ultimately, if the customer's using the truck anyway, well, it's down to them. You know, we can, like you said, we can't police it. We can't be there all the time to watch them to make sure that they are VOR in the truck once you've left site. You know, we can only fill our paperwork in as best as we can. And that's brilliant. What your guys are doing is grand.
I think some of them quite enjoy it.
Yeah. Well, ultimately, the highs and lows of the job, you know, you have to take the best and the worst of it, don't you? You know, it's as simple as that.
But most of them are like, you know, I'm just doing my job and I'm telling you what I've got to tell you. And that's how we approach it with them from our angle is,
of course,
you report what you see at that given point on that given day and you write it down and you tell them what you found. And then the rest is up to them. We'll do our bit. They've got to do their bit too.
Of course. We do get the odd customer that take it personal and it's a totally impartial opinion of a snapshot of what the truck is like at that time. But unfortunately, you do get the odd ones that take it personal and it's just, you know, we're there to do a job, aren't we? That's the thing. And ultimately, we're there to keep people safe, which is the most important thing of all, of course. Do you have any real examples of customers that when you've had this instance where the guys have had to go off and do a Regulation 10?
Yeah. So, I mean, as I said, luckily we don't get too many immediates. Most of them are, you know, faults that need to be fixed within a fixed period. But those that are immediates, generally speaking, the engineer will phone it through, but we wait for the paperwork to come back. And then it's the whole process of finding out where it's got to be sent. That's not, you know, that's on us then. That's time in the office. Is it a hire truck? Is it, you know, does it go to HSE? Does it go to local authority? Does it go, you know, if it's a hire truck on behalf of another forklift company?
Of course,
we do that too, you know.
Yeah.
So that's one part of the process, which can be time consuming and annoying. And then the next part of the process is sending it through. I say you've got 28 days. So we tend to, depending on the customer, depending on the circumstance, depending on what the thing is, if we know it's going to be fixed and we're going to fix it, or if it's another forklift company that we know is going to send somebody to fix it, we might wait until 20 days or 28 days before we send it, because we can. We want to get it fixed so that then I can tell them that it's fixed. So generally speaking, I've just pulled up some of my emails to one of the, so like, we are on the border of Devon and Cornwall.
Right,
and
okay.
There's multiple, like Devon use district councils. Cornwall is one council.
Yes.
And they all do it differently. So depending on who we're reporting to, Somerset is a different one. Torbay is a different one. So I've got, I don't know, 7, 8 different email addresses. And sometimes you'll send it to somebody and they'll come back and go, it's not us, not our department.
Yeah.
Try trading standards. And you'll go to trading standards and they'll say, oh, it's not us. Try environmental health. So you try environmental health. And then they go, oh, it isn't us, it's business compliance. And it's like, well, none of them want to do anything with it because I don't think they realise that they have to do anything with it. And so it very much feels like it's just a process you've got to do that's not going to have anything, nothing's going to happen at the other end. The ones for the HSE, we have to send in the post. I don't even know if they're received.
Yeah.
You know?
I must admit, from you're not on your own in saying what you've said. HSE and the LEAs, they don't make it easy, or traditionally they haven't made it easy. HSE, I think, have stepped up over the last sort of 12, 18 months, and they've given us lists of offices,
addresses,
addresses. Of course, if we send them off, I think traditionally with HSE, because of the way that things work, is no news is good news. So I think if they will be receiving them, but I think had there have been an issue, they would have come back to us. I think LEAs could still do with a lot more work from their part, because you're not the first one that says, oh, well, we've had a reply to say not known at this address, or it's not our department, it's not our section. And realistically, if they want us to report, they should have all those processes in place their end.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nice that we're doing our bit, obviously, but they should be able to, respond at least with an acknowledgement, if nothing else.
Yeah, very, very rarely get an acknowledgement. There's one of our local district councils that the guy does respond. With the ones that I'm sending to the local authorities and our district councils and councils, I always send a caveat of why I'm sending it. So I just copy and paste it because I wrote it once and thought that's good. I'll use that every time. So
that's the way.
That's what I said generally. So that's generally what I do. I write a little paragraph in the middle. Please see attached a copy of a recent thorough exam report undertaken by ourselves on a customer site that was deemed an immediate failure. Then I put a little paragraph about, because we're a thorough exam provider, we're required to forward those reports under LOLA, and with regards to the equipment where a defect presents immediate or imminent risk of serious personal injury. Then I tell them about why we're reporting it to them or the HSA, depending on what it is, and within 28 days. And I always say, and apologies if this isn't you.
Oh, grand.
So then I'll tell them who it is. So on this particular one, it says the particular business that we recently inspected is a quarry. It harvests, retails and distributes stone products, and that comes under local authority. So we've been advised to forward it to you. Please pass it to the relevant party. And then I always caveat in bold, please be advised that in this instance, the customer has confirmed that the truck was beyond economical repair and has been taken out of action, scrapped and is no longer used. Or please be advised that in this instance, the truck has been repaired and been put back into use and a certificate of safety has been issued. So one or other, I'll always send it unless they haven't told us. And if they haven't told, and if we haven't been instructed, I'll do a bold, please be advised, we've had no further instructions from the customer. Yeah. So there's one of three things that I'm going to send, and then I send it with a copy of the report.
I tell you, that's fantastic. That's really good. Because, of course, we talk about Regulation 10 of LOLA, which is the reporting side, but then we have to have proof that any further work required has been carried out under PURE. So you're covering both options there. That's grand. And, of course, then you'll always get the guy who says, well, I'll repair it myself, or I'll get somebody else in because, you're right, your rates are too high or whatever, the usual thing. And we
do get that for general, general ones that got 4 weeks or whatever on. And we always ask them to put that in writing to us so that we've got that in writing before we issue the certificate. If it's an immediate, we want to see it. But, and actually, I don't think we've had that, obviously, like on this one there, the customers told us we've taken it out of use.
Yeah.
They're not using it. So they've told us that. So we put that in, and from our perspective, it shouldn't be there next time we visit a site.
Well, that's it, exactly. I was going to say, you've raised a good point there that hasn't been raised so far, actually. We all talk about, VOR and then the truck must be repaired and put back into service. But we haven't spoken about the fact that trucks that do get, beyond economical repair, so we'll scrap it. And it does happen out there, especially now that LOLA has changed slightly in that we can't pass on a truck to an end user without a thorough examination. Because years ago, we used to have trade sales and things like that, and they would go with very little documentation. Obviously, we have to provide thorough with them now, whether it be a week left or 10 days left or whatever. So that's grand that you brought that up. Do you feel that being part of CFTS gives you that support to carry out the thorough examination and then consequently deal with HSE? We
wouldn't do it if we weren't accredited. We wouldn't. We know that there's people out there that do their own LOLA inspections. I mean, insurance companies, for one, they're our biggest bugbear. But we wouldn't do it without. It just gives us the confidence that, well, just the examination process where everybody gets their qualification gives you the confidence to go out and gives you the tools to say, obviously, know what you're inspecting, but also how to talk to the customer, how to tell them what you need to do. And then from my perspective, from the management side of things in the office, there's 3 of us here that have done that as well. And so we need to be, I don't see the trucks. I'm not an engineer. I'm trusting that my engineers are doing a competent job in their inspection, but then I have to be competent that I'm reading that correctly before issuing the certificate. And then any questions that come back from customers or anything are obviously directed to us. We're the ones picking up the phone, and we're the ones that have to know, how often does it need to be thorough examined, and what timescale does it need to be fixed within, and what is acceptable if they say they want to fix it, and that falls on us. So if we didn't have those tools from CFTS, it's not a service that we would provide. For us, it's like insurance. That's a easy way to describe it, really. It's like, we do it because we know that we've got that backup. I guess if we're thinking of it is, if we were doing it ourselves, I have no issue with the competency of our engineers, but how do I prove that?
Yeah.
How do I prove that the test that we do off our own back would stand up anywhere else? If a customer had an accident on site, the first thing that's going to happen is health and safety executive are going to come in, trading standards might come in, they're going to look at safety, and they're all going to want to see servicing reports and stuff like that. And, if we've done it ourselves and it comes back to us, how do I show that we're competent? And that's why we won't do it, is because I can't. You can't do that unless you've got something that says, we've tried and tested these things, and these are the points that we look at. And so for us it's a no-brainer, but I understand other people can do it themselves, but that's a risk that they take, and they have to indemnify themselves against that risk, and that's not a risk I'm willing to take.
And that's understandable. That is the whole point of being part of our scheme, as you know, because you've got the backup of your own technical manager, and there's a big team in the background that are there to support should anything go wrong. Nobody wants anything to go wrong, of course, but it's nice that when you have got that issue that, we can deal with it. Something you did raise there, Carla, which is, it's important to remember that there are other companies out there, mainly insurance companies, and we don't knock their engineers. Their engineers are qualified to a degree level, and that's fine. What we do have a comment about is they're not specialists in our equipment, which is how our guys are. They've worked with this equipment for many years. So they know the ins and outs, and they know all the failure points. They know all the wear limits. So this is where the grey areas come between insurance companies and our competent persons. And when I say our, I mean CFTS scheme members, because they are specialists in what they do. And it's such a hard industry to be a specialist in. You can't just get it overnight. Nobody hands it you as a Christmas present. You have to have put the miles in. You have to have done the training and worked, out in the cold and out in the winter time to gain that experience. So that's a good point that you raised there. And one of the most important things, of course, is that I think end users, customers are getting they're understanding now that we're not sort of snitching on them. We're doing it, as part of a constructive feedback exercise. Yes, we may have to inform HSE, but it is constructive. It's not a pointing the finger exercise, which is, that's the main thing that we need to get across to these end users.
Ultimately, we want them to fix it. So,
well, yeah, of course. Well, yeah.
Most places now are so health and safety conscious that they want to know, because they don't want to have it on their desk. They don't want to have it, a lot of places have a person that's responsible for the forklifts on site. I mean, we're in Cornwall and Devon, and so a lot of our people are one-man bands, but those that aren't and that are part of bigger organisations, it's generally a responsible person that's sitting in an office or is a warehouse manager, or they may not even drive the forklifts themselves, but generally it's the person that is responsible for health and safety. And I don't know if that is across the country, but it seems to be down here that whoever does the health and safety also does the forklifts. And so if there is a failure or an immediate failure, they want to know. They're down in the truck and they're the ones that are like, well, I'm not, this isn't, I don't want this on my shoulders. So from that perspective, things have moved on. Whereas, 10 years ago, what health and safety?
Well, yeah.
So it would have been different, and they probably would have very much felt like you were telling tales. But now it's not like that, because we tell them before we've done it. We say, unfortunately, it's not our process. It is a process that has to be followed, and we have to do this. We're obliged to tell them. So the best thing you can do is get it fixed, or scrap it, or tell us, because whatever you choose to do is what we're going to tell them. And that's how it is. It's like, this is your immediate failure. What do you want to do about it? And thrown back to them. And generally speaking, if it's the health and safety person, they're like, right, get it fixed.
Yeah.
How are we going to do that? We need to do it quickly.
Yes, of course. And again, we've covered this point already, but it's about keeping people safe. Ultimately, that one accident, that one death is one too many.
Yeah.
And I think with the advent of National Forklift Safety Day and seminars across health and safety, I think even down to our quality assurance code, there's a lot of health and safety covered in there, and it's all to prevent any issues happening, making it future-proof, isn't it, And I think that we do that as an industry. I think generally we're fantastic. When I visit, obviously I'm from up in the Midlands, but when I visit my members, they have exactly the same sort of philosophy that you've gone through there, is that, if you do find something, okay, things wear out, but get it done as quickly as possible. Because these things are, they can be lethal. A forklift truck can be a lethal object, if it's used in the wrong way or it breaks down at the inopportune moment. So it's grand and it's brilliant. Thanks very much for your input today.
Thank you.